Question number 3, Mr Speaker. This Government committed to end the use of asylum hotels this Parliament, and we are on track to deliver just that. We have brought the number of hotels down from 213 in July 2024 to fewer than 117 today, meaning 1 in 5 hotels open at the election are closed now, and we continue to move people into more basic accommodation, speed up caseworking and remove record numbers of people from this country.
Mr Speaker, can I commend my right honourable friend for the way she's gone about reducing the amount of hotel use in this country after the shocking legacy that was left behind by 14 years of the last government. She will know these hotels have become a source, unfortunately, of right-wing intimidation, violence and community cohesion and tension. Can she reassure me, in Scotland in particular, that as families are moved out of these hotels, that the accommodation they are put in is not only appropriate for them, but also appropriate for the communities in which they are housed?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. Let me reassure him we work closely with local authorities, accommodation providers and safeguarding partners to ensure that families and vulnerable individuals receive the support that they need throughout any move, and that is true across the whole of the UK. We do understand that hotels themselves can impact community tensions, and whilst people have a right to protest peacefully, nobody has the right to intimidate communities or vulnerable families.
Mr Speaker, and just building on the last question, RAF Linton on Ouse, where 1,500, up to 1,500 asylum seekers may be put, will be open gates, and it's a village of 600 adults, and close to that is a primary school. So may I ask the Home Secretary, in light of the comments about community cohesion not being in schools nursery, will she now rule out RAF Linton on Ouse as an inappropriate site because of the proximity of the primary school?
Let me say to the honourable gentleman, no decision has been taken, and all of these factors, including other community assets, schools, community facilities, are taken into account as part of the decision-making.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Government and I inherited 3 asylum hotels in Bournemouth, and I know that the Minister is working through a complicated process to close the hotels in Bournemouth. I have asked on the 5th of January, the 9th of February, the 9th of March, the 8th of June and today whether the Government have positive news about the closure of any of the asylum hotels in Bournemouth. Can the Minister give an update, please?
Home Secretary.
Let me thank my honourable friend for the tremendous campaigning that he has done in this House on behalf of his constituents, and let me say to him there may be further good news to come, but this Government has a commitment to get out of all asylum hotels by the end of the Parliament, and we are on track to do that.
Sir Julian.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and can I thank the Home Secretary for what she said about Anne, whom I first met over 50 years ago, and she was as formidable as an undergraduate as she later became in later life as a mature politician. I believe that nobody other than the present Home Secretary on the Labour benches could do more to tackle the asylum problem than she is doing. But having said that, this strategy of moving people out of hotels and into camps or dispersing them can only ever work if other people are not coming in constantly to replace them. So what plans does she have for truly deterring people so that they know that if they embark on a small boat, they will physically not be allowed to melt into British society in the future?
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. He's right that in order to deal with this problem effectively, we do also need to reduce the inflow of people coming across the channel. He will know we're debating a bill later today with measures designed to do just that, as well as the wider policy changes that I have announced since I have been Home Secretary, designed to change the calculation of those who are in the north of France looking to get on a boat to come to this country that way. I think he is signalling, of course, the Conservative Party's previous policy of the Rwanda scheme, which he will know we disagree with that as a deterrent, but we are working on all and every other measure in order to deter those people from making those journeys in the first place.
Spokesperson Max Wilkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The NAO reported last year that the cost of asylum accommodation contracts had more than tripled from under 5 billion to more than 15 billion. Clearly they're bad value for money, they're bad for communities and they're bad for the asylum seekers themselves. The member for Makerfield has stated his ambition to activate the break clause in these contracts. Given that he is set to become Prime Minister next week, is the Home Secretary planning to rip up the agreements?
Well, those are contracts that we inherited, and they will be retendered under this government to ensure that we drive value for money across those contracts. He will know, of course, the cost of asylum accommodation has come down. Asylum accommodation and support has come down by over £1 billion since this government came to office, and we will continue to make progress on that.
James McCleary.
Question number 4, Mr. Speaker.
Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have made the landmark commitment to halve the levels of violence against women and girls in a decade, and already we are taking action. We will prevent children from taking, sharing and viewing nude imagery on their smartphones and tablets. We have invested £53 million to tackle the highest harm perpetrators, and we've protected over 1,000 victims through domestic abuse and protection orders. Our ambition is clear, and there is much more work to be done.
James McCleary.
Speaker, Sussex is in the grip of a crisis of violence against women and girls. In the county, only 3% of reported rape cases ever make it to trial. And for the few that ever get their day in court after distressing delays, just 53% see a conviction, which is 10% below the national average. It's therefore no surprise that so many women in the county have so little faith their abusers will ever see justice. Operation Soteria was launched in 2021 to overhaul how rape and other serious sexual offences are investigated and prosecuted, yet there appears to be little progress in Sussex. So can the Secretary of State update the House on the progress of Operation Soteria and set out what action she is taking to improve the investigation and prosecution of rape cases in Sussex?
Thank you. Well, let me say firstly to the Honourable Gentleman that I do recognise that rape and sexual offences can have a devastating impact on victims, as can the process leading up to an investigation and hopefully a charge, and those rates are far too low. I'm happy to arrange a meeting for him with the Policing Minister to talk about the specific issues in Sussex, but all forces are implementing Operation Soteria, which is designed to support officers and prosecutors build the strongest case through tools, training and guidance. And I have, of course, also asked all forces across the whole of the country to implement specialist rape and sexual offences teams by the end of this Parliament.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've had a number of cases in my constituency where male perpetrators of domestic abuse use their partner's immigration status as a tool to control and abuse them. So women feel unable to report crimes of any kind because they're worried about their own immigration status. So could the Minister, the Home Secretary, outline what the Home Office are doing to protect women from this form of abuse?
Yeah. Well, let me say to my honourable friend that no woman should be afraid of coming forward to report domestic abuse, regardless of either immigration status or indeed any other status in this country. And let me make very clear that they should do so unafraid as to the impact that that might have on their immigration status. We will support all victims of violence against women and girls, regardless of their status in this country.
Sure, Select Committee, Dame Karen Bradley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate myself with your and the Home Secretary's comments about Anne Widdecombe? She was a formidable human being and somebody that we all are thinking about very much at this time. Now, this week, in light of that news, the safety of politicians is something that we should all consider. And the Home Secretary may be aware of the situation of District Councillor in Staffordshire Moorland, Councillor Jill Salt, who has been the victim of sexualised AI images. Now, I don't agree with Councillor Salt on many things, but on this I stand in total solidarity with her. So will she join me in condemning the comments of Reform Councillor Dave Poole, who said that Councillor Salt needed to grow bigger balls in order to do the job?
Let me say to the Honourable Lady, I think that those comments are a disgrace and that I would hope all members across this House, regardless of their party political persuasion, would take a unified stance on all instances of either violence against women and girls, threats, abuse, the creation of explicit sexual images, and indeed those that break the law as well. And let me say that message clearly from this dispatch box, and I hope it's one shared across the House.
Christopher Vince.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A report by the National Audit Office in January 2025 said that there was a lack of buy-in by other departments when it came to previous violence against women and girls strategy. We know that if we're going to tackle violence against women in my constituency of Harlow, but across the UK, we need to ensure that this is a cross-party work and that departments don't work in silos. So what is the Home Secretary doing to ensure that is the case?
Well, let me assure my honourable friend this is a cross-government strategy, a cross-government commitment. It has been led by the Prime Minister himself directly, who has got government departments together to knock heads together and to make sure that everybody is equally committed. I'm sure that won't change, regardless of what may happen in the very near future. Let me assure him this remains a cross-government strategy, and I hope that it is one that does have support across parties as well.
Shadow Minister Katie Lamb.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I would like, if I may, just to echo your tribute to a predecessor of mine, Anne Widdecombe. She was an exceptionally effective Member of Parliament, has been a really tough act to follow and is very fondly remembered in the Weald. On behalf of those of my constituents she served for decades, a role she fulfilled with outstanding dedication, I'd just like to say thank you. Last week, I met a group of victims and survivors of the most appalling sexual violence, like Angela. It's not her real name, but Angela was first raped by her stepfather at the age of 8. He then sold her to men for sex to pay off his gambling debts. He was sentenced to just 10 years in prison, and now, having served only 6, is being let out early by the government. My question to the Home Secretary is one that those women were asking. Why did they endure the years of pain and danger it took to have their abusers put in prison, only for this government to let them out again after such a short time?
Well, let me say to the Honourable Lady, of course I recognise the strength, feeling and the experiences of all of these victims and survivors of the most appalling abuse. And I'm pleased that in this case that justice was sought through the criminal justice system. Too often many victims don't come forward at all. She will know that what the Justice Department are focusing on is to make sure that we do not run out of prison places in this country. Over the last 14 years of the Conservative government, only 500 places were added to the whole of the prison estate. And it's a crisis that I, in fact, directly inherited when I came into government, and I do know how precarious the number of prison places in this country has been. And I hope she will agree that for all victims and survivors, the most important thing is to make sure that we never run out of prison places in this country again.
James Aston.
Number 5, please, Mr Speaker.
Home Secretary.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With your permission, I will group this question with questions 7, 9, 15, 20 and 22. Last year saw over 3,000 illegitimate premises raided and nearly 1,000 arrests. I have provided £30 million of additional funding over the next 3 years to go even further, and as a result, thousands more businesses will be raided, hundreds will be arrested, and millions in cash will be seized as part of a permanent national crackdown.
James Hudson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. High street crime and shoplifting remains a key concern for my constituents who have seen some pretty awful examples. My local police have had some successes, and they are running local initiatives on high streets that are starting to deliver results. Can I ask the Home Secretary, because there will be other such examples around the country run locally, can we make sure, as well as national initiatives, we are gathering together those localised ones or those local successes, bringing them together and sharing that good practice to make sure we're bringing it all together as part of an attempt to clean up our high streets?
Well, let me thank my honourable friend and pay tribute to the work that is happening in his local area, and let me reassure him that we are working from the Home Office very closely with our colleagues in the Communities and Local Government Department as part of the government's wider strategy for high streets. This is, of course, a criminality-focused crackdown to deal with some of those businesses that we know are front organisations for other criminal behaviour, but we will be working with our colleagues closely, and I'll make sure that all of those good examples are used as a spur for others to take action too.
Patrick Herbert.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. These criminals on the high streets, they move quickly, but the government response has tended to be too slow over many years. So, can I ask, when will the current pilots finish? How will success be judged? And when will every town in Britain be able to say that they benefit from what works?
Well, firstly, let me say to my honourable friend, this is not a pilot. It is the real thing. I've made funding available to every force area in the country to take part in this national crackdown. And in addition, I provided enhanced funding to 3 hotspot areas where the need is greatest. But success, I would say to my honourable friend, means more shops closed, more criminals arrested and more cash seized.
Mark Toman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Secretary of State for her answer. Residents in my constituency of Watford are concerned about crime on the high street, whether that's theft, antisocial drinking and drug use, or violence and hate crime. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that it is only thanks to this Labour government that we are finally getting a grip and dealing with it?
I thank my honourable friend for his question, and we are certainly starting that long road to making all of our communities safe. We've made good progress so far in this Parliament with knife crime and knife homicides down very significantly, and there are of course 3,000 additional police officers and PCSOs in neighbourhood policing as well. We will make more progress as the government rolls out the measures in our Crime and Policing Act, as well as the wider High Street strategy, which will include the crackdown that I have announced, but is part of wider work with the Communities Department.
Will Jones.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Many of my constituents want to see tougher action against the criminals who hide behind businesses such as the rogue barber shops and the vape shops and the mini-marts, a blight on many high streets in my constituency. So can the Home Secretary update the House on what the government is doing to tackle this type of offending and get these dodgy shops closed once and for all?
Well, I thank my honourable friend, and that is precisely what this new national crackdown is designed to do. The additional money will put more officers on the street to raid these dodgy shops and other premises, and we're also providing funding for trading standards and HMRC as well, because we know that this is a multi-layered problem and it does require assistance from other professionals as well. Immigration enforcement will also receive additional funding as part of this crackdown. We are determined to make sure that our high streets are safe places for communities to use.
Harpley Chapel. Not here. Jill Jum.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Many seaside towns like Rhyl and Colwyn Bay in my Clwyd North constituency are working really hard to regenerate their high streets and attract investment. Can the Home Secretary confirm that the High Streets Organised Crime Unit will ensure that coastal towns facing issues with organised criminal activity receive the same support as larger urban centres?
Let me very clearly offer my honourable friend that reassurance. The nationwide crackdown, which is led by the National Crime Agency, will involve enforcement activity across the country, including in coastal areas like hers. Enhanced funding is currently available for all police forces to bid for via the National Crime Agency, and I'd encourage my honourable friend to make sure her force is involved.
Alberta Costa.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why was the effectiveness of the High Streets Organised Crime Unit completely lacking when 2 weeks ago BBC journalist Sue Mitchell and her excellent team exposed the case of Mr Twana Jamal working in such a high street business right next door to my constituency office? And why has the Home Secretary and none of her ministers had the courtesy to respond to my correspondence asking for an urgent meeting on this nationally significant case involving a convicted human trafficker?
Well, let me say to the honourable gentleman, I'm not aware of his correspondence, but I will chase that up when I get back to the department later this afternoon and ensure he receives an appropriate response. He will know, of course, that there is a live investigation at the moment, so I can't comment on any of the details of that, and certainly not the operational details of that, but I will make sure that he is updated in an appropriate way, given he's a local Member of Parliament.
Lee Dillon.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. High streets are already under pressure, as I've seen with our local fight to keep the Thatcham and Hungerford post office open, and retail crime and antisocial behaviour make that pressure worse. So can the Minister expand on how the High Streets Organised Crime Unit remit will extend to smaller market towns like Hungerford, Thatcham and Newbury, and villages like Lambourne?
Well, let me assure the honourable gentleman it is a national crackdown. It is led by the National Crime Agency, and I have provided funding for all forces, regardless of the type of area that they represent, to be able to bid in order to get the enhanced activity in their areas. And I would encourage him to talk to his force about what they are doing to make sure that they get their share of that money.
So Ashley Fox.
Mr Speaker, Bridgewater High Street has many excellent independent businesses like Styles Menswear, Soda and Rye, and Elise and Louis. But there are also too many dodgy Turkish barbers and criminal enterprise selling illegal cigarettes. So will the Home Secretary outline what additional she will give Avon and Somerset Constabulary to get rid of this menace on our high streets?
Well, let me say to the honourable gentleman, I recognise the strength of feeling across the House, and I feel it myself as a constituency member of Parliament when we see these premises open up and everyone in the local community knows that they're dodgy and that they're involved in all sorts of other criminality and are front businesses, and that is why I've announced this crackdown. It will apply across the country. The National Crime Agency will take the lead on that, and I would encourage his force also to think about how they might benefit from the funding that has been made available.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The High Street Organised Crime Unit is a welcome step to take illegal vapes off our high street, but organised crime gangs are then moving with impunity online, where enforcement is a lot less rigid. So what is her department doing for stopping that it is such an easy thing to move from illegal trading on our high street to illegal trading online?
Well, let me say to her firstly, I think she raises an important point about illegality online, and of course the government the Home Office has an interest in that, but also other government departments, and we will continue to work with partners across government to make sure we're doing everything we can to clamp down on the platforms that enable illegality. But she will recognise that the physical presence of these many thousands of businesses across our country in our high streets has had a very damaging impact on local communities, and I think in that context it is right that this Home Office and this government is focused very specifically on the physical locations of these businesses to make sure that we are driving out the criminality and the antisocial behaviour that has left too many of our high streets no-go areas for local communities.
Shadow Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dodgy vape shops are a scourge on our high streets, but even more horrifying are some of the people who run them. To tackle rogue vape shops and organised crime, and if so, why has the government cut funding to regional organised crime units and opposed stronger closure powers for the police and local councils?
Well, the government hasn't opposed stronger closure powers, and in fact the government is currently consulting on a planned increase of closure orders from 6 months to 12, and we'll be bringing forward legislative measures very shortly, and we're also looking at the separate regime in relation to closure notices as well, none of which of course was acted upon when he and his party were in government.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I will group this response with question 16. The Government remains grateful to the British public for the generosity shown to Ukrainians who sought sanctuary in the UK. The Ukrainian scheme provides a substantial offer of support and demonstrates our commitment to the Ukrainian people. Government has been clear from the outset that this offer of sanctuary is temporary. That position has not changed. We continue to consider future arrangements for Ukrainians in the UK and will provide an update on longer-term arrangements in due course.
Ukrainian constituent Artem is currently seeking to apply for a funded apprenticeship, having now been educated here in the UK. Despite his excellent credentials, he's being turned down for every single apprenticeship because his permission to remain expires in May 27, despite the fact that under the current Ukrainian resettlement scheme, he will be able to immediately apply for a 24-month extension. So does the Minister agree with me that this is both deeply unfair and a waste of talent and opportunity for young Ukrainian refugees who are seeking to rebuild their lives and contribute to our society?
I am sad to hear of that case. Of course, the Honourable Lady does partially answer the question for me in the sense that what we have done in government is made sure that the extension period that Artem will be eligible for is a 24-month one to give greater certainty, yes, to individuals about their future, but employers and course leaders too to take a longer view in light of those opportunities available to Ukrainians in the UK.
Wendy Jim.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I echo the comments of my honourable friend. Can I take this from the other side, that this lack of certainty is actually challenging for those Ukrainians who are looking to return to Ukraine? My team are currently dealing with a situation where a family who are looking to go back to Ukraine are not being allowed to access the savings from their bank. Can we get some support and guidance to help people who are thinking about going back to be able to do so?
Well, of course, when people do wish to move back, we would want to support that in any which way we can. I have to say the savings point is a new one to me, so if the Honourable Lady was to write, I'm sure we'd help in whatever way we can.
Ms Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I draw your attention to my declaration of interest. There is some scepticism among the public about refugees, but despite the fact that twice as many people came to this country from Ukraine as crossed in small boats, there has been no public outcry, there is no public unrest. Does the Minister agree with me that is because the public recognise that refugees who come here fairly, in a legal way and with proper support are absolutely welcomed by the British people? And what conclusions is the government drawing from that as they've created their new scheme around safe routes?
The Honourable Member raises a very, very important issue here. I know from my own community where sometimes that immigration conversation is very difficult indeed, that those same people who raise frustration at the lack of order and control in the system as inherited from our predecessors were the same people who leaned into the Ukrainian scheme. Same people who've leaned into the Hong Kong BNO scheme, same people who've lent into the Afghan resettlement scheme and the Syrian scheme. The message I take from that is that when the British people see that systems are ordered and controlled, and that for those who get protection or those who need it, and we know who's coming, then they lean into it. And that, of course, is the spirit of our reforms to the system, and I hope the Honourable Gentleman, indeed all Honourable and Right Honourable Members, will support us in that venture with our legislation this evening.
Lee Pitcher.
Mr Speaker, question number 8.
Minister.
The figure in the question represents the maximum number of animals expected to be used under licences granted in early 2026 for up to 5 years for the purpose of benefiting humans, animals or the environment. Animal use may only be authorised where no suitable alternative exists. The Government remains committed to accelerating the replacement of animals in science wherever possible.
Lee Pitcher.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The statistics published just last week showed that 2.54 million scientific in experiments on dogs and a 13% increase on those using monkeys. Does the Minister agree that greater urgency is needed to accelerate the phase-out of animal testing, and will she consider the merits of a clear long-term plan such as that set out in Herbie's law?
Yes, I do agree that greater urgency is needed to accelerate the phase-out of animal testing, and I welcome, to that point, the Government's strategy, which was published and backed by £75 million to do just that. DCIT has committed to publishing clear timelines for specific actions, and I very much look forward to seeing them.
Edward Mrower.
10, please, Mr Speaker.
Can I just take this opportunity, Mr Speaker, to pay tribute to PC Jess Turnbull, a PC who died in the line of duty just aged 18, and I attended her funeral along with other colleagues on Friday. It is a reminder, if any were needed, of the price that we ask of our police officers. This Government is providing an extra £2.4 million to defend the package of deliver the package of wellbeing measures set out in the Police Reform White Paper. This includes enhanced trauma support, improved occupational health provision and stronger leadership on wellbeing. Working with police partners, we will ensure officers and staff can access timely, effective support that is vital for our police workforce.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. A police officer and constituent reported a senior colleague for sexual assault. Separately, she was domestically abused and raped by a partner. Her domestic abuser was arrested with bail conditions preventing contact, but in her trauma-induced state, she continued to instigate contact and was subjected to a police misconduct proceeding. Despite experiencing severe trauma, including a suicide attempt, evidence about her mental health and welfare was not considered. She will never be a police officer again. So what steps will the Minister take to ensure police forces adopt genuinely trauma-informed misconduct processes for officers who are victims of sexual assault, rape and domestic abuse?
Can I just say how sorry I am to hear about the situation of his constituent, and of course would be very happy to talk in more detail about that case so that we can learn the lessons. We are looking at what happens during misconduct cases and what happens in terms of the support that is given to officers. There is also a particular issue around domestic abuse that is suffered by police officers, where we are trying to ensure, working with women's organisations and others, that we get this right.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Police Minister for her answer to my written question confirming that the Home Office does not collect data on PTSD in police officers. I wonder if she agrees with me that either the Home Office or police forces do need to have this data so we can understand the scale of the problem and support our officers accordingly.
I agree that we need to be doing all that we can to record data. We're looking at data on suicide, for example, as my honourable friend knows, and making sure we have the right information there. We are expanding our psychological risk assessments from 50,000 to 150,000, and that will hopefully also give us more information that we can use. But I stand with him in wanting to support our officers in any way we can.
Funton Lynn.